In just a month, France had fallen, and Britain was left to fend off the Third Reich alone. The Royal Navy was spread thin across the Mediterranean Sea without the support of the French Navy. But when Britain thought things couldn't get any worse, they declared war on them on June 10, 1940, becoming their new rival in the Mediterranean. With Italy controlling critical locations in the western region, Britain's main naval base in Alexandria, Egypt, was under threat. They had to hold on to their ports at Malta and Greece or risk losing control over the entire Mediterranean. It was a daunting task, but one that the Royal Navy was determined to complete. To do so, they launched Operation Excess, an audacious plan to deliver a series of supply convoys to Malta, Alexandria, and Greece through treacherous waters infested with Italian warships, mines, and Luftwaffe raiders. The stakes were high, and the decision to execute Operation Excess would have monumental consequences for Britain throughout the war. Still, it would also lead the Royal Navy to face some of its most fearsome encounters yet. Taking the initiative. Despite Italy's sudden entrance into the war on the side of the Axis powers, the loss of France as an ally, and Britain's vulnerable and extended supply lines across the region, the British were undeterred when it came to exerting their dominion over the Mediterranean Sea. Instead of waiting for the newcomer to make the first move in the Mediterranean theater, Britain seized an opportunity to cripple the Italian Navy before they had time to mount any major offensives. During the night of November 11, 1940, Admiral Andrew Cunningham orchestrated a Royal Navy attack on the Italian harbor of Taranto, which became known as the Battle of Taranto. Cunningham's assault became the first all-aircraft ship-to-ship naval attack in history, utilizing 20 dependable Fairey Swordfish biplane torpedo bombers provided by the aircraft carrier HMS Illustrious. The British attack took Regia Marina, anchored at Taranto harbor, by surprise. It delivered a decisive blow to Italy and paved the way for a modern naval doctrine based on warplane deployment instead of battleship fire. At the cost of only 2 aircraft, the British disabled 3 battleships, 1 heavy cruiser, and 2 destroyers, and took down 2 warplanes while inflicting over 650 casualties. This led the Royal Navy to undertake a massive supply convoy operation to maintain control over their harbors in Malta, Alexandria, and Greece. At the end of 1940, Alexandria was the Royal Navy's main base of operations in the region. Greece and Malta served as staging grounds to project Britain's power to the middle of the Mediterranean. But Britain's hold over these waters was threatened, with Italy attacking Egypt from Libya in September 1940 and Greece from Albania in October 1940. The growing assaults by land meant that resupplying their harbors in the Mediterranean would have to take place by sea. A massive formation. For Operation Excess, 3 convoys set out across the sea, carrying much-needed goods and personnel. The fate of these convoys rested on the shoulders of the naval forces tasked with their protection. At Gibraltar, Convoy MC4 was assembled, consisting of 4 freighters, each brimming with critical supplies. Clan Cumming, Clan MacDonald, and Empire Song were loaded with material earmarked for Piraeus, while the 4th vessel, Essex, carried a staggering 3,000 long tons of seed potatoes, 4,000 long tons of ammunition, and 12 crated Hawker Hurricanes bound for Malta. The convoy set sail for the Skirky Banks, escorted by Force H, made up of HMS Malaya, Renown, Sheffield, and Ark Royal. Between them and their destination, there was a constant threat of attack. U-boats were lurking beneath the surface, and enemy warplanes soared overhead. Meanwhile, Convoy MW5, consisting of Breconshire and Clan Macaulay, was making its way across the sea, destined for Malta. Force C was dispatched to protect them, comprising HMS Calcutta, Defender, and Diamond. Convoy ME6, on the other hand, was composed of 9 freighters, waiting anxiously in Malta for passage to Alexandria. Their journey would be protected by HMS York, Orion, and several Flower-class corvettes, including Gloxinia and Salvia, making up Force D, who would meet up with HMS Ajax and HMS Perth from Suda Bay to provide support. As the convoys made their way across the Mediterranean, they were accompanied by other naval forces. Force A, consisting of 10 ships, including the legendary battleship HMS Warspite, HMS Valiant, HMS Nubian, and the carrier HMS Illustrious, was dispatched from Alexandria to cover the convoys east of the Skirky Banks. HMS Gloucester, Southampton, Ilix, and Janus of Force B were tasked with transporting 500 soldiers and airmen from the Aegean to Malta before joining Convoy MC4. Despite the number of warships, a U-boat ambush, a hidden Italian mine, or a sudden Luftwaffe raid could bring disaster to the Royal Navy's plan. Still, they pressed on. The journeys. Besides the Italian Navy's fearsome fleets that could operate in the area, the massive British convoys had a new overwhelming enemy, the recently deployed Luftwaffe anti-shipping aircraft. The aerial force consisted of 500 anti-shipping aircraft of Fliegerkorps X, transferred from Norway to Sicily to safeguard Axis convoys to North Africa and thwart passage of British convoys to Malta. On January 6th, Convoy MC4 set out from Gibraltar, misdirecting Axis agents near the port. After dark, the convoy turned towards Malta, with an escort, including Force H, tasked with ensuring their safe passage. As the convoy traveled across the sea, other forces were dispatched to join them. Force A, Force D, and Convoy MW5 with Force C all sailed from Alexandria. Force B set out from the Aegean, carrying 500 soldiers and airmen to Malta. After landing their passengers in Malta, they headed west to meet Convoy MC4. Meanwhile, the Vickers Wellington bombers carried out a daring raid on Naples, causing damage to the Italian battleship Giulio Cesare and forcing the retreat of the only operational Italian battleship, Vittorio Veneto. Turning tides. On January 9th, the convoy came under attack by Italian aircraft and torpedo boats. Despite their best efforts, the Axis forces failed to sink any convoy ships. But the Royal Navy's luck would soon run out when its most prized asset, the carrier Illustrious, flagship of Force A, would become the target of the Axis's wrath. On January 10th, the ship was attacked by a swarm of Axis Savoia Marchetti SM-79 and Junkers Ju-87 bombers. Despite the fleet gunners' efforts to keep the enemy warplanes at bay, some of them managed to slip through the defenses, and the ship was hit by 5 bombs, including one that failed to explode and a near miss that disabled the rudder mechanism. Illustrious sustained heavy damage. 9 swordfish and 5 fulmars were destroyed, with many casualties among the aircraft maintenance personnel. The attacks continued throughout the day. Illustrious finally reached Malta at 9:30 p.m., having suffered 126 losses and 91 wounded. Reaching port. Calamity struck again on January 11th, as Mohawk and the Force B cruisers steamed from Malta to rejoin Force A. They were attacked by 12 Ju-87R dive bombers of 2nd Gruppe Sturzkampfgeschwader 2 Luftwaffe. Gloucester was hit by a bomb that failed to explode, while Southampton was hit by 2 bombs and caught fire. The blaze spread from stem to stern and trapped several men inside. 81 sailors lost their lives, with the survivors being rescued by Gloucester and the destroyer Diamond. Severely damaged and without power, Southampton was scuttled by 1 torpedo from Gloucester and 4 from the cruiser Orion. Despite the Axis's best efforts and the damage inflicted on some of the escorting warships, all convoys made it safely to their destination, delivering much-needed supplies and personnel to the Allied forces. While the Royal Navy lost 1 cruiser and had another cruiser, 1 destroyer, and their flagship damaged, the Axis proved incapable of stopping the supply lines to the Royal Navy's bases in the Mediterranean, which secured the future of Britain's naval operations in the region. Additionally, the Luftwaffe lost at least 8 warplanes to the unrelenting British anti-air defenses. The Illustrious Blitz. Regardless of the failure to cripple Allied supply shipments, the Luftwaffe and the Italian Air Force had managed to severely damage Illustrious, one of the Royal Navy's most important assets. After such a feat, they could not let the flagship be repaired and sent back into combat. As eager as the Axis were to finish off the carrier, their bomb stocks had been depleted after the relentless attacks on January 10th and 11th, but on the 16th, when their stockpiles were restored, the Axis powers made a desperate attempt to destroy the mighty HMS Illustrious before she could be repaired. On January 16th, the skies were filled with the ominous hum of enemy planes as 10 Machi C-202s, 10 CR-42s, and 20 BF-110s escorted 44 Ju-87s towards their target. The bombs exploded with a deafening roar, sending shrapnel and debris flying everywhere. Grand Harbor, the port where Illustrious and Essex were moored, was shaken to its core. However spectacular, the attack had little effect, with the carrier remaining steadfast and her crew fighting back fiercely. Meanwhile, HMS Essex was not so lucky, as a bomb exploded in her engine room, causing 38 casualties. The attacks continued relentlessly, with another heavy air raid on January 17th and another on January 18th. But the fearless crew of HMS Illustrious never faltered, fighting valiantly against overwhelming odds. And on January 19th, after the last bomb fell from the sky, the ship emerged unscathed from the attack. After departing Malta on January 23rd, HMS Illustrious sailed towards Alexandria, her hull battered and her engines damaged. But even as she limped towards safety, the brave Fulmers remained behind to defend the island and maintain British naval supremacy in the Mediterranean. Thank you for watching Dark Seas. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel to embark on more high seas adventures. If you want to explore some of humanity's most thrilling wartime stories, tap on your screen and check out our other Dark Documentaries channels. We publish new content constantly. Stay tuned.